She stood in front of my gate, arms crossed like she owned the place. "You can't be here," she snapped. "This land belongs to the HOA now." I looked past her shoulder. 28 freshly painted condos lined the edge of my property, right where my workshop used to be. My name was still on the deed, my grandfather's sign still nailed to the oak tree, but somehow she acted like I was trespassing on my own land. I'd been gone 6 months, out on a demolition job in Nevada. When I came back, the road to my farmhouse had been renamed Community Drive. The new residents waved politely at Karen, the HOA president, but looked away when they saw me. I parked my truck right in the middle of the path. "Lady," I said, trying to keep calm, "I think you made a mistake." She smiled, that fake sugar-sweet kind of smile. "Oh, no mistake. The HOA bought this land after you abandoned it. Now it's part of the Greenview development." Abandoned it? My blood boiled. My security cameras were still running, solar-powered and cloud-linked. "You forged the deed?" I asked. She laughed softly. "No, Mr. Turner, we improved it. You'll thank us later." That's when 2 men in fake uniforms walked up, badges glinting under the sun. "Sir, you're trespassing," one said. Their patches didn't even match. I didn't move. "You guys sure about that?" I asked quietly, pulling out my phone. A single tap opened a live drone feed showing the construction truck still sitting on my registered parcel. Karen's smile faded. "You can't film on HOA property," she yelled. I leaned in close. "Funny thing, Karen. It's my property." Her eyes twitched, but she didn't back down. "We'll handle this legally," she hissed, turning to leave. I watched her heels click against my gravel driveway, fury burning inside me. If they really built on my land, then they built on top of their own problem, and they had no idea what kind of man they just messed with. Viral line, HOA built 28. Condos on my land. Too bad I own a demolition company. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those condos sitting like parasites on my land. My grandfather built that place with his hands. Every inch of that soil had our family's sweat in it. And now some HOA queen with fake badges thought she could erase that with paint and paperwork. At 5 a.m., I drove out to the site again. The morning mist hung low. The air smelled of concrete and new money. I parked my truck at the same spot as before, set my coffee on the hood, and waited. Within minutes, a shiny white SUV rolled up. Karen, of course. She stepped out wearing sunglasses, even though the sun hadn't fully risen. "I warned you, Mr. Turner," she said, voice sharp. "You're trespassing again." I just smiled and pointed toward the line of condos. "You sure about that? 'Cause according to county maps, they're the ones trespassing." Her smirk faltered for a split second. She wasn't expecting that. "I spoke with the county last night," I added, keeping my tone calm. "Funny thing, they still have my name on the deed." "Not yours, not the HOA's, mine." Karen's lips tightened. "We filed new documentation. You'll be receiving notice soon." "Fake paperwork again?" I asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she waved her phone at me and whispered something to the men waiting behind her SUV. They started recording, trying to make it look like I was harassing her. That's when I noticed something new, a set of construction signs with a corporate logo I didn't recognize. Greenview Developments, LLC. It wasn't even registered locally, so this wasn't just an HOA power trip. This was a scam. I leaned against my truck, crossed my arms, and said, "Karen, you and your friends made a big mistake." She tilted her head. "Oh yeah, and what's that?" "You built on land that doesn't belong to you." Her laugh was nervous this time. "You can't prove it." I took a deep breath. "You ever heard of the term geosurvey overlay?" She blinked. "What?" I opened the back of my truck. A drone case, laser scanners, and demolition blueprints gleamed under the morning light. "See, I don't just tear things down," I said slowly. "I survey, record, and file every square foot before I do." Karen's face went pale. "And lucky for me," I added, tapping the screen. "I recorded everything before you started building." The silence hung heavy. Her fake cops glanced at her, unsure what to do. She turned, barked, "Get back in the car," and stormed off, but I saw the fear in her walk. She knew she was caught. What she didn't know was how far I was willing to go to get my land back. Viral line. She built condos on my soil, and I had the blueprints to bury her lies. 2 days later, I walked into the county records office with a flash drive in my hand and a storm in my chest. The clerk, a tired-looking woman with glasses sliding down her nose, took one look at the papers I laid down and froze. This can't be right," she whispered. "These signatures—" "Forged," I said flatly. Karen and her HOA buddies filed fake deeds under Greenview Developments. "Look closely. Same handwriting, same notary stamp, copied 6 times. She called her supervisor. Within minutes, 3 county officials were huddled around the monitor, scrolling through the files on my flash drive. Drone footage, time-stamped surveys, contracts signed by my company, proof of taxes paid up to last quarter. My land wasn't just mine legally. It was recorded, mapped, and sealed. One of the officials looked up at me. "You own this, Mr. Turner. No question about it. Whoever filed this fake transfer's in serious trouble." I nodded slowly, keeping my voice calm. "Then I want them off my property by tomorrow." But things didn't go that smoothly. When I drove home that night, I saw police tape around my gate and a big red sign that read, "Property under HOA review." Karen wasn't backing down. She was doubling down. I laughed out loud. "She's really doing this," my phone buzzed. "Unknown number," I answered. A male voice said, "Mr. Turner, this is Officer Daniels from the HOA Security Division. You're in violation of Community Code 4B, unlawful interference." I almost dropped the phone from laughing. HOA Security Division? That's not even a thing. There was silence on the other end, then a fake cough. "Sir, we'll be dispatching a team tomorrow to clear the area." "Good," I said, leaning on my truck. "Make sure you bring helmets." He hung up. I spent the rest of the night prepping. I lined my property boundaries with marker flags, checked every camera feed, and rolled out the blueprints I'd kept from my last demolition project, a corporate plaza in Dallas that came down piece by piece under my supervision. If they wanted to play with force, they were about to meet precision. At sunrise, I stood waiting by my truck again. Karen arrived first, this time with a full convoy. Fake cops, HOA board members, and a few confused homeowners who thought she was protecting their community. She marched up, waving a document. "This is an official HOA eviction order. You have 30 minutes to vacate." I didn't move. I just pointed toward the sky. A low buzzing sound grew louder. Then 3 demolition drones drifted into view. My drones. Cameras blinking red, hovering right over the condos. Karen squinted. "What are you doing?" "Just giving everyone a fair warning," I said quietly. "You built on private property. And those units?" I looked at her straight. "Were never permitted." Her phone started ringing. It was the county office. I saw her face drain of color as she listened. "Ma'am," I said, stepping closer, "you might want to tell your people to step back." Viral line. She called fake cops on me, but I called in the drones. Karen's hand trembled as she lowered her phone. The crowd behind her, the fake officers, the homeowners, the construction workers, all started murmuring when they saw the fear in her eyes. I could tell she'd just heard the bad news. The county must have confirmed it. My land, my rights, her mess. But Karen wasn't the type to admit defeat. She straightened her jacket, forced a smile, and yelled, "This man is threatening public property. He's armed with drones." That one line was enough to make chaos erupt. The fake cops moved forward, shouting commands they clearly didn't understand. One even tried to pull out a taser, but his holster was empty. I raised both my hands, calm as ever, and said, "Relax, boys. The drones aren't armed, just filming." They froze. From above, one of my drones projected a live feed onto the side of a condo, the county database on full display. You could see every record, every fake signature, every fraud tag blinking red. The crowd gasped as the words "forged document" flashed across the screen. Karen's face went pale. "You can't do this. This is private," she yelled. I smirked. "Funny, that's what I said when you built on my land." Suddenly, a white pickup truck pulled up. Out stepped 2 real sheriff's deputies, badges gleaming in the sunlight. The taller one looked around, took in the scene, and said, "What the hell's going on here?" Karen rushed to him. "Officer, thank goodness you're here. This man, he's threatening the HOA." The sheriff didn't say a word. He looked at me, then at the drone projection. Then he turned to Karen. "Ma'am, that's a county-verified property overlay. It shows you're standing on his land." The silence hit like thunder. Karen's mouth opened, but no sound came out. The fake cops started backing away, suddenly realizing how deep they were in. One of them even whispered, "We didn't sign up for this." The sheriff took her fake eviction order, turned it over, and read the bottom. "This isn't a legal document." "Who authorized this?" Karen's hands shook. It was a misunderstanding." He cut her off. "No, ma'am. It's a felony." For the first time, she looked small, cornered, helpless. The same woman who had screamed at me days ago now looked like she was searching for an exit that didn't exist. I leaned closer, just enough for her to hear. "You built your little empire on lies, and now it's all coming down." The sheriff gave the order to clear everyone off the site. Karen tried to protest, but her voice cracked mid-sentence. As the crowd dispersed, I watched the sun catch the side of the condos. They stood tall and proud, but not for long. I looked down at the demolition paperwork I'd been carrying, signed and stamped by the county that morning. Karen glanced at the papers and whispered, What are you going to do?" I smiled, slow and steady. "Exactly what I do best. Viral line, she stole my land, so I took back my sky." The next morning, the sound of engines rolled through the valley like thunder. Big yellow demolition trucks, haulers, and cranes moved in. My crew, my people, men and women who'd worked beside me for years. They didn't ask questions. They just nodded when I said, "It's legal, every inch." Karen was there too, standing at the end of the road with her phone out, trying to live stream. "You can't do this," she shouted over the roar of machinery. "These are people's homes." I walked toward her, calm, steady. "No, Karen, these are my buildings. Built on my soil without a single permit, and the county's already cleared the demolition." I handed her a copy of the order, big red letters across the top. Authorized demolition, Greenview Development, illegal structure. She looked at it, then at me, disbelief spreading across her face. "You're insane," she whispered. "Maybe," I said, putting on my hard hat. "But at least I'm right." I raised my hand and gave the signal. My crew fired up the machines. The first wall came down with a deep, echoing boom. Dust filled the air, people screamed, phones went up, and Karen just stood there and frozen. Each crash felt like justice. Every brick that fell reminded me of the months she spent pretending I was the intruder. The condos were empty, cleared out by order of the sheriff. But the sound still hit hard like a heartbeat of truth shaking the ground. Karen ran toward me, coughing through the dust. "You're destroying everything. You'll be arrested for this." I turned to her, voice low but steady. "You tried to erase my family's name. You built lies over generations of hard work. And now," I pointed to the wreckage, "I'm just removing what doesn't belong here." Behind us, the sheriff's SUV rolled up again. He stepped out, watched the demolition for a moment, and nodded. "All clear, Mr. Turner. County's officially transferred everything back in your name. You're good to go." Karen looked at him in disbelief. "You can't just let him—" "Ma'am," the sheriff interrupted. "You're lucky you're not in cuffs right now. You and your HOA security team have a lot to explain." Her phone slipped from her hand. The live stream was still running. Thousands of viewers watching as she stood there, covered in dust, eyes wide with shock. I looked into her camera and said, "Next time you try to steal someone's land, make sure he doesn't own the company that can erase your mistake." The crowd around us went silent. Even my crew paused. Karen turned away, shaking, whispering, "This isn't over." I smiled. "You're right. It's just getting started." Viral line. She built condos on my land, so I turned them into dust. By sunset, the condos were nothing but piles of rubble. The air still carried the smell of dust and broken wood, but for the first time in months I could see the old horizon again. My land, open and quiet, the way it used to be. My grandfather's oak tree stood untouched, its branches stretching out like it had been watching the whole thing unfold. Karen hadn't left. She sat in her car at the edge of the property, still covered in dust, phone pressed to her ear, talking fast. Probably her lawyer, or whoever she thought could save her now. But every time she looked toward me, I could see it, that flash of fear she tried to hide. I walked up slowly, stopping right beside her window. "You can stop calling," I said. "The county already filed charges. Forgery, illegal development, impersonating law enforcement. Quite the list." She looked up at me, eyes red. "You think this makes you the hero?" I shrugged. "No, just the owner." For a moment she said nothing. Then she hissed, "You ruined people's homes." I leaned down, met her glare. "You sold them fake ones." She opened her mouth, but no words came out. The sheriff's car pulled up behind her again, lights flashing gently this time. He got out holding a folder. "Ma'am, I need you to come with me." Her hands shook as she stepped out, trying to sound strong. "I'm the president of the HOA. You can't arrest me for doing my job." The sheriff sighed. "Your job ended the second you started forging deeds." He led her away, her protests echoing down the road until the sound of her voice disappeared behind the trees. I stood there for a long time, watching the last rays of sunlight hit the dirt where those condos once stood. My crew had gone home, the machines were silent, and the wind was the only thing moving now. I took off my hard hat, wiped my face, and looked up at the oak tree again. "We got it back, old man," I said softly. "They thought they could bury our name. But we're still standing." My phone buzzed, a notification from the county site. "Case closed, property restored to original owner." I exhaled slowly, a mix of relief and exhaustion washing over me. The nightmare was finally ending. Or so I thought, because right then, my cameras pinged, motion detected near the back fence. I opened the live feed. There in the dark was someone holding a gas can, viral line, just when I thought it was over and she came back with fire. The image on my phone made my stomach twist. It was Karen, her hair a mess, her clothes streaked with dust and tears. She was standing near the remains of the condos, clutching a red gas can like it was her last weapon. I zoomed in. Her eyes looked wild, desperate. She wasn't thinking straight. Without a second thought, I grabbed my flashlight and sprinted across the yard. The night was dead silent except for the crunch of gravel under my boots. As I got closer, I could hear her mumbling to herself. "He took everything." "Everything?" "Karen!" I shouted. She jumped, turned toward me, startled. The gas can slipped from her hand, spilling a dark streak onto the dirt. "Stay back," she screamed. "You think you won? You destroyed my life." I raised my hand slowly. "You destroyed your own, Karen. I told you, this land wasn't yours." She was shaking, tears glistening in the light. "You humiliated me. Everyone's calling me a fraud online. My HOA's gone. My husband left." Her voice broke. "I built this place. I made it beautiful." I took a careful step forward. "Karen, don't make this worse. Walk away. You still have a chance to fix your life." But then she looked at the rubble and whispered, "If I can't have it, no one will." Before she could move, I lunged, kicking the gas can away and grabbing her wrist. She struggled, screaming, but I held on tight. The sheriff's cruiser light suddenly flared to life behind us. He must have seen the motion alert too. Within seconds, he and his deputy were running toward us. Karen fell to her knees, sobbing. It was mine. It was supposed to be mine. The sheriff gently pulled her up and said, "Ma'am." It never was. He led her toward the cruiser, her body limp, her voice just whispers now. I stood there, breathing hard, watching as the car drove off into the night. The gas can lay in the dirt beside me, a thin trail of fuel soaking into the soil. I kicked dust over it and sat down on a fallen beam. The stars were out now, bright and cold. I stared at them for a while, trying to calm my racing heart. After everything she'd done, the lies, the threats, the fake cops, and I almost felt sorry for her. Almost, because the truth was she didn't just lose a case. She lost herself to greed, and when you build something on lies, it always burns, even if the match never lights. Viral line, she tried to burn my land down, but the only thing that went up in flames was her empire. The next morning, sunlight poured across the wreckage like a new beginning. The smoke from last night had cleared and the land was quiet again, calm, grounded, alive. My crew came back to finish cleaning up the site. Nobody said much. Everyone knew what had gone down. The sheriff's car had come by before dawn, confirming Karen was in custody. Arson attempt, fraud, impersonation, forgery. The list was long. I walked the perimeter one last time, boots sinking softly into the soil. Every step felt heavier but peaceful. For months they'd stolen my sleep, my peace, my name, and now I finally had all of it back. Near the oak tree, I found an old metal sign buried in dirt, rusted, bent, but still readable. Turner and Sons, Land That Lasts. I brushed off the dust and smiled. My grandfather used to say those words before every job. Don't build fast, build right. What's real doesn't fall. And he was right. A few trucks passed by on the main road, drivers slowing to stare at the open field where the condos used to stand. They probably saw the viral clip too. Karen screaming at the demolition, me standing calm as the walls fell. The footage had been everywhere overnight. Headlines read things like, HOA president exposed for fraud after building on wrong land. Millions of views. Thousands of comments, most said the same thing. Finally, someone stood up to an HOA bully. I wasn't looking for fame, though. I just wanted peace. As I packed up the last of my gear, a little boy from down the road rode his bike up to me. "Mister," he said, pointing to the open field, "you gonna build something new here?" I looked at the horizon for a long moment. "Yeah," I said softly. "Something honest." He grinned and rode off, dust trailing behind him. Before I got in my truck, I turned once more toward the oak tree, sunlight filtering through its branches. It looked proud, standing tall over everything that had tried to erase it. I whispered, "We're home." Then I started the engine, the gravel crunching under the tires as I drove off, leaving behind the ruins of lies, and the roots of truth finally free again. They built over my land to erase my name, but now my name's the only thing that still stands.